My name is Jonathan Jones. I'm a serial entrepreneur here in West Michigan. I have some different companies under my auspice, but more importantly, we're here at Star Garden, which is a hub for entrepreneurship within the ecosystem here. And it started off as a venture capital firm for Rick DeVos, and then evolved into basically a space for entrepreneurs to work, to ideate, to come together as a community and to solve problems. There's been several business accelerators in this space, and now it's really started to become an organization at its apex where they are empowering entrepreneurs on myriad different levels, handling things from the lifestyle businesses, or as one of my friends told me today, real businesses in the community, to tech businesses that need to scale down for venture capital, resources, etc. So thankful to Star Garden for allowing us to have the space. Thankful to our guests who came from all over the state of Michigan to be here with us tonight. I'm really excited about this conversation. I got a little intro that I co-wrote with ChatGPT. It's so convenient to have an apparatus that can help you get stuff together. So the paradigm shift, blockchain technology, cryptocurrency. Tonight, right, we gather at a critical junction in the evolution of the global economy, where innovation, disruption, and opportunity converge. Blockchain and cryptocurrency are not just buzzwords, they are building blocks of a new economic architecture that challenges the status quo. From decentralizing financial systems and enhancing transparency to empowering creators and redefining ownership, this emerging digital landscape holds the power to unlock new models of equity, inclusion, and economic freedom on a global scale. As traditional systems strain under the weight of outdated infrastructure in some ways and growing inequality, blockchain technology offers an alternative path, one rooted in decentralization, programmability, and trust without intermediaries. Whether it's reshaping global finance, or transforming supply chains, or enabling peer-to-peer commerce in real time, the technologies we discuss tonight are more than trends. They are catalysts for a seismic shift in how the world creates, stores, and exchanges value. Thank you for joining us as we explore this new digital frontier. How was that? So, Elizabeth, you're going to sit next to me, but now Adam, you're sitting next to me. Why don't we just delve into a little bit about your background, where you come from, and how you found yourself in this space?
Yeah, so, I don't know if this is working actually.
Test. Oh, it's not either. Actually, is there a way to turn this up?
Yeah, one of them.
Well, anyways, while we're figuring out the blanks, so I started actually in financial media. I went to U of M and then worked at Benzinga, which I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with, being in the crypto space and them being a mission-based company. And I was running the business development, doing a lot of data sales actually, and taking alternative data. And what alternative data is like your social media data, your data off of IoT sensors, things like that, and selling it to hedge funds so that they could create models. Quant trading was a big thing back then. I don't know if it really still is now. I know it still exists, but if you've ever heard of like quant traders, I was essentially selling data to them so they could create their models. Looking back at it, and while I was there, I realized, I was working very, very hard for not a lot of money and doing the work of hedge fund managers or portfolio managers, and not making that much money. So if I was gonna, one, work this hard, I was gonna do it for myself. Two, I wasn't gonna work in an industry where I felt like I was compromising people and their privacy, and essentially just helping the rich get richer, right? It's fine to be an investor and all those things, but I just wasn't passionate about it, and quite frankly, I didn't really like the people that were doing it, right? So I basically quit my job there, and I was looking for the next thing. I was doing CRM automation work actually for Grand Circus, which used to be located here in Start Garden when they, before they got bought out and everything and before the COVID. But I met a neighbor through doing that work who was really deep into the cryptocurrency space. He actually started a really primitive exchange back in like 2013, which was sitting in the Diag in Ann Arbor and actually helping people trade cryptocurrency manually and kind of taking a fee for it. His name was Kennard, if anybody's Hockenhall, if anybody's run into him. But just a shout out to him because he's really, you know, who got me into this industry, and I ended up taking over the Detroit Blockchainers meetup through helping him back in 2017, 2018. So that's kind of, I guess, my origin story is, you know, one, wanted to be an entrepreneur if I was going to work that hard. Two, do it for the right thing and actually switch teams, at least at the time. You know, I think there's a lot of problems with our industry now too, but at least try to fight for the people improving or attempting to improve the financial system as opposed to the people just exploiting people with it.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Adam. And first and foremost, Jonathan and Ben, thank you for organizing this. Give a round of applause. Back there.
I have a mic. Plant, you know. That's the curveballs from back here.
Fantastic. Yeah, and Jonathan, thank you so much for hosting. It's really a privilege to be part of this. So, for those who don't know me, I'm Elizabath Hansson. I'm the Michigan president for Stand With Crypto. Stand With Crypto is a nonpartisan grassroots advocacy movement, and we're working really hard to protect the right to own, to build, to innovate with blockchain technology in the US. And they really bring together builders and crypto owners with policymakers so that they can understand each other and together push for common sense, forward-thinking legislation. In addition to that, I'm also the executive director of the Detroit Blockchain Collective. The Detroit Blockchain Collective is a community-run hub in Detroit, and we focus on community and education. We do a lot of events, a few every month, that are educational and are open to everybody in the Detroit metro area. And I've also started to expand beyond Detroit, and I also help other people start communities of their own, whether it's in their city or a university or a high school. And I do that with the support of Stand With Crypto. So if you don't live in Grand Rapids and you want to start your community, talk to me. I'll help you. I'll guide you with the resources to do that. And my journey in blockchain started back in 2016. And I was a software engineer at the time. I attended a talk at the University of Michigan, my alma mater, and I heard somebody talking about Bitcoin. And as a software developer, this was fascinating to me, particularly the concept of programmable money. It just kind of blew my mind at the time. And I wanted to know everything there was to know about it. And really, the more I learned about it and the purpose of Bitcoin and its potential, the more I realized that blockchain as a technology was actually not what made it so interesting. It was these fundamental principles behind it of decentralization and censorship resistance and transparency and trust. And that's what makes it so compelling and so powerful. So these are the principles that are driving these transformations on a societal and economic level. And learning about that was really what convinced me that, okay, I want to commit my life, my work to this full time and be a part of creating a more inclusive and equitable global economy. That was really the driving force for me. And it's the rest is history, as they say.
Absolutely. Dario, might as well just keep the train rolling.
Thanks, sure. Hi everyone, I'm Dar Meshi. I'm an associate professor at Michigan State University, and I actually do research on social media, trying to understand the psychology of it closer, more. Okay. Sure. And like the problematic use of social media. And I'd heard about blockchain back in the day. I used to live in Berlin, Germany, and a friend of mine used to make NFTs and things like that when I was back there. So I'd heard about it, but I always thought it was like really shady and dangerous. I didn't want to go visit any websites for fear that my computer would get hacked. And then during the pandemic, I had some time, and like I said, I researched social media, and so I started learning a little bit about blockchain, and I discovered, wait, you can create a social media platform on a blockchain, and that kind of blew me away. So then I started trying to understand more about this technology, and then yeah, the rest is history. And also, the other thing is too, that so much of the discourse around blockchains is on social media, like on Twitter especially. And so because I love social media, I'm fascinated by it. There's a really interesting group of people, of several thousand people on Twitter all the time, interacting all day long. You know, all of us are on Twitter, part of this group, watching people, and it's quite fascinating as well from a sociological aspect, not just a technological aspect as well.
That's it. Well, Adam, speaking to this a little bit, what are some of the innovative use cases for blockchain that you're seeing in the marketplace? What problems does blockchain address, you know, that are currently installed in the community and society? What do we use blockchain for?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I think on the basic level, to Elizabeth's point about making things more equitable, one, blockchain allows people to essentially have a service that is very similar to a bank account without having to, go through all these different registration processes or getting denied by the bank or whatever that they might do, or use as a reason to deny you a service, right? So I think that's one thing. We're seeing more integration in between crypto and the banking service now, but I would say almost in the way that I think about it is that crypto is like banking, like light. There's still going to be some regulations as we're seeing now, but there's going to be a lot more freedom to actually do things. And so that'll be really cool for providing products to underserved people. The other one that I'm seeing is anything that previously has lacked liquidity, right? So you might have heard the phrase RWA, or real world asset, right? Cryptocurrency, or blockchains rather, actually provide the ability to tokenize these or provide certain, at least let's say, receipts of a real world asset, right? That can then be more easily traded on an exchange or an alternative trading system. So we're going to be seeing things like fractional real estate, right, of let's say a building in downtown Flint. You'll see things like that potentially.
Excellent. Elizabeth, really excited to dig in here with you. You're an advocate, but you started off in technical work. You have background as a technologist, essentially. How does it feel to make that transition to being an advocate and talking to our legislators about the opportunities that are in this industry?
That's a good question. I appreciate that question because I am at the intersection of technology, policy, community. These are three areas that independently of themselves I'm very passionate about. On the policy, I'm just an activist by heart. I can't sit still when I see something happening that needs change. And so I was naturally drawn to the place that I'm in now that I feel very purpose-driven. And as I said, I started in this industry as a software engineer, and then eventually in technical management and as CTO of a blockchain company. And the more time that I spent in the industry, the more I realized how misunderstood it is by people outside of the software developer circles in particularly, misunderstood by policymakers and legislators and the general public. And I started to realize that technology alone is not enough. You can build the most elegant solution in the world, but if you don't have the infrastructure to support it, if you don't have the policy and the laws and even the public perception, if those things aren't ready for it, not only is it not going to thrive, but it may not even survive. And I started to realize that especially these past 4 years, as I looked at other countries who had started to modernize their financial infrastructure. Those legislators were paying attention to where our global economy is going, where our financial infrastructure is moving, and the part that cryptocurrency and blockchain tech is playing in that. And they started to prioritize modernizing their financial infrastructure, modernizing their regulatory frameworks, so that blockchain companies could be set up for success if they want to build in their country. And crypto users could be protected, blockchain builders could be protected, and innovation started really thriving in those countries who had built the right infrastructure for them. I noticed in the US, we were losing our engineers, we were losing a lot of companies that moved offshore, and they weren't going offshore for countries where anything went, like the Wild West, where you don't have to follow rules. They actually wanted structure and stability, and they wanted to feel a level of confidence that if they are going to go to all the work of setting up a company in a country, that the country's going to support them with stability and tell them these are the rules that you have to follow. So that's really what pushed me into advocacy of realizing technology's not enough. We've got to have the infrastructure to support this. And I wanted to see the US come back as a leader in technology and innovation and really do what I can to even bridge that gap between the voices of the community and our legislators. Letting legislators know this is something your constituents care about. There are so many people in Michigan, in particular. As for me, as the Michigan president of Stand with Crypto, I represent almost 45,000 people just in the state of Michigan who are Stand with Crypto advocates. Specifically, not even just crypto users, right? There's 65 million crypto users in the US. So it's a lot more than legislators give us credit for, and we just need to be loud about what we care about and how big this movement is so that they can start modernizing their infrastructure and we can keep up with the rest of the world.
I just want to say that I can definitely attest to the offering conversation as somebody who's had it like 3 times over the years within our company, so.
Really good. So, Dara, let's dig in here. As a professor in communication and advertising, blockchain technology, how do you see it transforming the internet, particularly for content creation? You know, we're in a creators economy now, right?
Yeah, great question. So one thing you can do with crypto that you can't do in the old version of the internet, like basically we call it like Web 3. Web 1 was like information superhighway, like the very first websites where you could just like read information. Then with social media, we call that Web 2.0, Web 2, where you can now write a lot and also be a content creator, like the question that Jonathan is asking. With Web 3, you can actually own your content. So you can actually own like an image on the internet or any computer file that you can, that's on any file that's on a digital file, you can put that, create a token of that and associate that with a wallet so you can now own it. So now creators can make a lot more money. The current way that Web 2 is structured for making money is that a company like Facebook, Meta, they use your data to target advertisements to you, and the creators don't make any money from that advertising. The creators do make money sometimes on certain platforms like YouTube, but a large amount of the money, the take rate of the social media companies is going to the companies themselves and not to the content creator. Web 3 with blockchain technology flips that, and the people who are making the content will make a lot more money.
Excellent. I want to follow that up with a question that you will respond a little bit more. Apparently, business made me aware you just taught your first course on the introduction to blockchain, right? Yeah, that's a buzzword for sure. What are you observing about students' awareness and their attitudes toward technology?
Oh yeah, great question. Yeah. I taught this course at MSU. It took me 2 years to, I was actually telling Connor right here, it took me 2 years asking the chair of my department to let me teach the course. I finally was able to teach the course, and had a bunch of students, and I'm in a department of advertising and public relations, so the course is about marketing, like blockchain. So I taught the first half of the course about just blockchain, and the second half of the course is how it's going to change advertising and marketing on the internet. And the students, there were around 30 students, and most of them didn't know what blockchain was. They were curious, and so they signed up. Only 2 of them actually had wallets, and so could control, actually own tokens. And I don't think any of them had ever bought an NFT before. And even at the beginning of the course, I asked if anyone thought crypto was a scam, and a few people raised their hands. And they told me that they thought the course was about how it is a scam, not about what it would be useful for. And over the course of the semester, my students really engaged with the content. I onboarded all of them to get wallets, and they were all passing tokens back and forth. They learned, like all about what it is, and by the end of the course, 4 of the students were actually applying for jobs in Web3. So I consider it like a big success. Yeah.
Absolutely. Adam, Detroit Ledger, your company. What's the mission of your company, and how has blockchain technology enhanced your business model? Because we're doing some real world examples, right, of how this stuff is working.
Yeah, definitely. So at Detroit Ledger Technologies, we're an infrastructure provider for Web3 and also a software development partner. What the first part means is that we run servers that essentially power the transactions similar to like the Bitcoin miner. We don't do mining at DLT, but what we do is very similar to that, just for other networks that run on different models. So of course we're making money that way, right? That's the core business model of our company, is essentially being a miner and providing APIs to on-chain data. On the flip side of it, the software development side, we actually operate as a venture studio. So what that means is that we'll look for entrepreneurs or look for project builders that we like, and instead of charging $200 an hour or $300 an hour for development work or whatever it is in consulting, we'll actually do it for much cheaper and take a piece of that company either through equity or like royalties, something like that, right? Because one of the great use cases of smart contracts and blockchain is getting those automatic royalties, right? So that's how our business operates. We don't really outside of the mining, the crypto and blockchain doesn't really affect our business model, or it doesn't enhance the business model, but we use it to enhance the models of our customers. So one project we're building right now is a browser-based game that uses digital assets as the in-game items, right? And so that actually enhances video games, in my opinion, because right now we have kind of this walled garden scenario with a lot of games where if you're playing like League of Legends or something like that, or Fortnite, and you buy a bunch of these in-game items and skins and all this stuff, well, what happens when you get banned by mistake or whatever, right? And you've spent $3,000 on Fortnite skins or your kid's half naked, right? You know what I mean? So I think we should view that as property that we can buy and resell, right? And so that's why we're using digital assets as in-game items. So that's one example. The example I gave before with RWAs and actually using fractionalized shares for real estate projects. If anybody's ever invested in real estate, how easy is it to actually resell the real estate if it's not something like a REIT? It's pretty hard. Right now, we're working on a project actually where we're going to be tokenizing some real estate, commercial real estate. So I think I'm excited about that one because it's bringing liquidity to assets that wouldn't normally have liquidity.
Absolutely. Well, Elizabeth, we're in the great state of Michigan. You are a University of Michigan graduate, correct?
That's correct.
Go blue. Go blue. Yeah.
Go blue.
And you are engaging with all kinds of lawmakers now. Michigan is a great state, but we are a maker state. We are a blue collar state. We make things and we roll up our sleeves and we go and get beers afterwards. So when engaging in this space around cryptocurrency, blockchain technology, what all the opportunities are, and also what maybe there could be some trials and tribulations. How are you educating policymakers about the opportunities? What are the possibilities?
Well, this is a great question. I think right now we're really at a turning point for our state. We have a decision of whether to engage on the innovation track and the economy moving forward and modernizing our financial infrastructure, as I was speaking about earlier. And a lot of other states have already started to do that. And that's had a really positive impact on their economy and on their ability to contribute to innovation, create jobs, and really just be competitive and move forward. And I really want to see Michigan take part in that. And so we're at this point where we can, if we have the right infrastructure for it. A big part of that is having regulation that supports companies setting up shop in Michigan, that protects builders and node operators and miners and stakers. And so fortunately, we we do have some leaders in Michigan who have really taken the initiative to start creating legislation around digital assets. Currently, we have a 4-package bill that really could reshape the landscape for Michigan for digital assets, and it's focused on mainly 3 principles. 1 is reserve investments, 2 is rights, and 3 is mining initiatives. So this first one is reserve investments, and this focuses on the state of Michigan's retirement system, and it really gives interaction for our state to be able to invest and modernize and diversify their portfolio. And now the interesting thing is we actually already have invested in our retirement system in Michigan as of last year. First Bitcoin, then months later, we were actually the first state to invest in Ethereum in the US. So our retirement system does invest already. This bill would codify that into law as a permission, saying we are allowed to do this. It is permissive, not restrictive. It doesn't force us to, but it protects our right to be able to do that, which is really important as the financial system, the digital economy is moving forward. If we want to keep up with that, we need to do that. A lot of other states have. Just about every major country in the world is doing that. We can't close our eyes to it anymore. The second bill is the Bill of Rights, and this is focused on 2 things. 1, it prohibits our state legislators from supporting a central, a CBDC, which is a federal level digital currency. And this is really a signal that we want to be cautious about our financial freedom and innovation and make sure that it stays decentralized. We don't want a centralized federal level digital currency that, along with that can come surveillance, a lack of privacy, a lack of autonomy. We're not China, we're not countries who have that level of surveillance around their citizens, and we want to make sure that we stay decentralized. The second part of that bill, this is HB 4511, is a bill, it's called the Bill of Rights. So the second part is protecting crypto owners, and as well as node operators and crypto miners and stakers, and really making sure that they are not subject to undue persecution or licensing or additional taxes that wouldn't apply to other technology business owners. And it protects our right to be able to own cryptocurrency. It's a really basic Bill of Rights. And then the last 2 bills are related, and they're related to mining. And not only that, but it's actually a green initiative for mining. It allows private companies to take advantage of abandoned oil wells that are actually right now leaking methane and hurting the environment. So it gives miners an initiative, financial incentive to say, okay, if you want to take advantage of this methane that's leaking and create electricity for mining out of that, we allow you to do that, but then you have to follow all these rules in order to clean up the well, to plug it, and to make sure that you left the environment better than when you came. So, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I was going to say,
Yeah.
like that last bill is really interesting because I think it could also be expanded to large warehouses or manufacturing sites. Because I think about this being in Detroit all the time, and this is why we do this and we come out here because a lot of the actual Bitcoin and crypto policy is being driven from the west side of the state, believe it or not, and not our area, right? With Representative Hansson out here, and was it Rockford, right? I think. But yeah, so anyways, I think that if we could even expand that bill to include other structures that also pollute, that might get some people on our side of the state on board as well too. But that's probably the most interesting one out of all for me is the mining stuff and how we could actually really, restructure those to superpower the state as opposed to just kind of solving one problem, right?
I like that. So do you see that being able to be implemented in cities like Detroit, for instance?
Yeah, so I mean Detroit, Pontiac, Flint, all these traditional manufacturing towns that quite frankly don't have that business. I guess Pontiac for a while had the film industry out there with the studios, but for the most part, these are areas that have really struggled to, outside of Detroit, right, really struggled to maintain any kind of economic viability for its constituents. So
this is a great point. And there are ways to be able to make these initiatives environmentally friendly, like what we're talking about, and that's what I like about this initiative. As Adam said, Brian Costumas was the one, actually he's not the one from mining, Brian Costumas is the one who introduced the Bill of Rights, which seeks to ban support of CBDC, well as protects the basic rights of crypto owners, node operators, miners, etc. McFall, Representative McFall, is the one who introduced the mining initiatives. So that's the first initiative for mining, and then HB 4513 is the second part of that, and it's complementary reliance on the first mining initiative, and it gives tax exemptions to those on the income specifically derived from cleaning up those oil wells and producing mining energy from that. So I see these bills as very forward-thinking, and we've seen the success of very similar bills in other states around the country. So I'm very excited, especially to see that there's so much bipartisan support. Hillary Shrew, the representative here that oversees the district Grand Rapids, is part of. She's an example of bipartisan support. She's a congresswoman that I met with in DC last month, along with Adam and other blockchain business owners. And it's really exciting to see that this is a bipartisan issue, and everybody's getting on board, understanding this is the direction that we're headed, and we want Michigan to stay competitive.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, just real quickly, because the country, the state everywhere is so polarized right now, are you finding support from both sides of the aisle, the donkey and the elephant, when you're talking to our legislators in law?
We are. Like I said, Hillary Shrew, who's the congresswoman for Grand Rapids. We've got Brian Postumus, McFall, who introduced the mining, and then we got Shute, who introduced the reserve bill. And it's very bipartisan, the initiatives that we're seeing in Michigan. So I think that's the exciting part. This is not a political issue. You go into the city of Detroit, and we're a very diverse population, and everybody's on board. We want to innovate, we want to participate, we want to thrive with technology.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think really if you're looking up, the lead up to the election and everything, it was politicized a bit, but I feel like it was really only a very small subsection of both sides that were fighting over this, where most people in the industry were like, we just get on with this and move on and finally be able to build, right? So,
Dar, I want to get you in here because they've been going back and forth like Sanford's next, so we got to get you back and forth, okay? Blockchain, is it gaining traction in academia? You're at Michigan State, one of our more prolific universities. Shout out to all the sparks out there.
Great.
Yeah, we're great for sure, right? And finding momentum for blockchain, for crypto, and the exploration of that within the college.
Yeah, actually, a lot of people don't know this, but Michigan State University actually, universities can issue bonds, and in order to bring money in for projects to build buildings, and we actually tried to issue bonds on an L2 on Ethereum to fund a building, but what ended up is there was a guy high up in the administration and finance trying to get it through, and the legal team actually blocked it, and that was a couple of years back.
Those lawyers.
Yeah, the lawyers stopped it, but we would have been the first university in the country to issue bonds on blockchain.
Wow.
Yeah, so the people at MSU are very crypto forward, and at least they're trying to be. And there's another thing too. There's a lot of people know that professors, we have what are called learning communities, and like a big topic is like coming around. It's going to affect all of us, like AI, for example. We band together and we have a group of people that meet up and we discuss how is this going to affect teaching, how is this going to affect the students, everything, right? Like the economy of the industry of the university. And so I pitched doing one on blockchain, and so this upcoming year we'll be forming a learning community on blockchain, and I'm going to try to form get a minor out of it. So hopefully students can be trained on blockchain. We've got great supply chain at MSU. We've got great business. I'm over on like the marketing and advertising side. So hopefully we can, and we have a great engineering school as well. Bring everyone together and train some students so they can come out and get jobs coming out of MSU.
That's fantastic. Do you have any ideas that you've been mulling over, you've been brooding on, the way that you think that this technology is going to impact learning at the college level, at the university level?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
That you want to share?
Yeah. Yeah, so impact like actual learning aspect?
Teaching.
Yeah, well, I mean, it doesn't really have to do with actual learning aspect, but yeah, I already pitched making NFTs for our students to get them to come to class, and when they do well on tests, but we're in the process of trying to get something going.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, Adam, I'm bring you back in here. This one is, I believe, is near and dear to Ben's heart. You know, the author of a lot of these questions, these great questions, they weren't me by any means. They were that. In 2017, crypto felt speculative and retail-driven. 2021 showed early institutional interest. Now in 2025, we see institutions, sovereign nations, and policymakers engaging. How would you describe the current state of crypto, and what is your pulse on this trajectory?
Yeah, so I think really historically, right, you're bringing up like 2017 and all the in 2021. It's very like hype cycle driven. I think you're going to see that kind of go away, which is a good thing, obviously. You know, some of these things were definitely artificial, right? Like the NFT craze was mostly driven by people being stuck in their house and having, you know, $4,000 or whatever it was dropped on them from the government, right, to play around with. So, I mean, that's why you kind of saw things like that. While, you know, there was a lot of money to be made, it's not a great thing for the industry. So, overarching, seeing a lot more engagement, of course, you know, all the stuff that you just heard from Elizabath here with the policymakers. I've experienced it as well too, going out to DC multiple times. And yeah, I mean, I think really at the end of the day, all these institutions, now that there is regulation coming, we're not going to see these hype cycles, and we're going to see sustained interest from places like MSU and hopefully the legal department not shutting down really cool projects, because that FOM project would have actually been one of the best illustrations of the use case that you could probably do right now. That would make sense to, you know, a fairly educated or technological person, right? So I am super hopeful, and I think we're going to see just things really ramp up from here.
Excellent, excellent. All right, I'm going to start throwing out some of these general questions. Anybody wants to catch it, and then at 7 o'clock we are going to go directly to the community and get feedback from those who are taking the time out to join us. Elizabeth, I want to ask you a little bit about media narratives. Just in general, how have you found that the media is portraying crypto, and what do you think has been shaping the narrative thus far, and what are we doing to shape the narrative moving forward?
Oh, that's a good question. I think there's still a lot of noise around crypto. I'm sure both of you can speak to this. And the noise can be hurtful to the substance, right? I think, you know, as social media does, you hear a lot of the negative first. So, and the truth is there are a lot of scams in crypto, right? There are a lot of crappy projects, and that can overshadow the real substance, whether you're talking about the very real use of cryptocurrency as a method for financial inclusion and driving the global economy, to blockchain technology, which enables ownership and equity and inclusion. So I think that's why education is so important, so that both policymakers and the public can learn really the real use cases that are important and that are helping people. But sure, there's still a lot of noise out there. And I think to Adam's point, when we have better regulation, that's going to bring a little bit of stability to the market, and that's going to even drive a little bit of that stability through what types of things find traction and popularity. Adam or Dar, do you want to add to this?
Well, you go first. Yeah, so, okay. Yeah, I mean, like, I personally hate meme coins. As somebody that's been in this industry for a long time, I think they're probably one of the biggest things holding really the industry back at this point because of all the negative press. It's not to say people can't, you know, create meme coins. I think that's fine, but currently the way that you know, exchanges or what are, you know, representing equivalents in our traditional financial system, right? Platforms like that. They're lumping in meme coins with actual legitimate projects and legitimate investments, and I think that's really damaging to the industry right now. And unfortunately, they're doing that because they make money on trading fees, right? So we need to find a way to either like decouple the meme coins from the real stuff, or what have you, but I don't think that's currently being covered in some of the, at least federal legislation coming out here towards the end of this year, the Clarity Act, if they can get it done. But that's something I'd definitely really like to see personally is the separation of legitimate versus not legitimate.
So one of the things, which I'm sure this will ring a bell for you, is the SEC recently came out and said, SEC does not have your back for meme coins. It's not security. Don't come to us for protection, right? So, Congress is the one to set the laws, but agencies like the SEC can implement those standards. So we are starting to see some feedback on things like that.
Thanks.
If I can jump in real quick, I think probably the last quarter, the best performing digital asset has been Farcoin. And I do think, so I'm bringing that up because on the one hand, we're hearing a lot about it sounds like legislators and institutions are figuring this out, and even the level of discussion here on the panel is already advanced in a way. How do people sift through the noise? Where do you go to do that? What are the legitimate sources of information so that you're not, jumping on board, Doodlecoin or whatever?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was ready. I was going to say something about that one. I think there needs to be, it's almost going on social media. You can find all types of stuff, not just about crypto, but if you're interested in food, there'll be people posting all these different types of food, and you just have to have a little bit of common sense trying to sort through that looks like good food or a legitimate project, and that doesn't. But it's still very complicated right now, especially because it's still early days growing, and the regulatory environment hasn't been very friendly. So now, hopefully there will be more structure and common, citizens will be protected better. And that kind of leads me back to what I was going to say before is, the one thing I wanted to add was the expression I typically use when I'm describing this to people is, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's legitimate, there's the casino and there's the computer. The casino is all kind of crazy, and there's lots of scams going on, and people are trying to get rich quick. But then there's actually the computer that really has a legitimate use case and can change the world and provide equity for financial services and a bunch of other services too. So just because there's this casino going on, people are gambling, that can get cleaned up, but you don't want to throw out the computer with it as well.
As far as places to go for sound information, I would say find local meetups like Grand Rapids Blockchain, who's just starting out here in Grand Rapids. Maki, can you raise your hands? Everybody knows who you are. Here we go. A round of applause for the beginning of Grand Rapids Blockchain.
Shout out to the Bitcoin meetup too. We got some representatives here.
Hey. So, sir, here, did you start? Are you part of the leadership team of the Bitcoin group?
I started the Bitcoin Grand Rapids community in 2020.
Amazing. Do you want to say just a word about that so that the community can hear about your group?
I completely agree with what you said. I think the best source of information is your local meetup. You can take your time, ask your own personal questions. The internet is full of misinformation, and you can find anything to validate. But the meetups have real life examples of real people who have been in it for a long time. That's your best resource, I would say. So come join the meetup. We do the last Wednesday at the factory here downtown for our informative meetup. We also have a social gathering at Founders every second Wednesday. So come join us.
Don't worry, we'll do another panel with y'all next time.
And the purpose of this is to support the blockchain ecosystem in Michigan. So I'm so glad that you said something and let people know here. Maki, would you also be able to share about your group? Because we've got two amazing groups right now.
Yeah, me too. Hi everybody. I don't think this talk through. I don't even need much, but I'm Mackie. I've been in crypto for probably almost 10 years now, and I was doing it by myself for a very long time, and I hated that. I got looked at like I was crazy when I talked about it with my friends, and basically, I met Elizabeth 3 months ago at U of M, and Hester Pierce was speaking, one of the SEC commissioners, who was very supportive of crypto, even during the Gensler era. And immediately she was like, I've been looking for somebody to do something in Grand Rapids for a while. Finally somebody wants to do something. And I met Dar, and I've been through her. We meet second Monday at Cityville. I actually work at Founders too, so we should definitely talk after this.
I think we can message each other.
Very possible. Maybe. We'll see. Maybe we'll talk either way. But yeah, you're welcome to come. It's free. It's sponsored by Stanley Crypto. So there's free beer and food. So please come. It'd be very nice to have you. And we're happy to talk about pretty much anything. Thanks, Elizabeth.
I'm very excited about both the Bitcoin group and the Grand Rapids blockchain. It's an amazing resource for the community. And Adam, I know you wanted to share something as well.
Yeah, so really just as an extension of the meetup, something I found helpful too is actually joining a DAO. Well, you have to be a little careful about it, but the ones that I like are the ones that actually allow you to earn the token by participating, and they're not asking you to buy it, right? So I've actually spent a lot of time in those communities as well too, and you end up meeting a lot of really great people out there, great people in those groups. And then there's also other perks a lot of times where you can get tickets to events like Consensus for free or cheap, that sort of thing. So it'll really expand your network if you can participate in one of those, and they're pretty open a lot of times. One that held an event, like a larger conference in Detroit actually, I think this was last year, the conference is called MCON, but they have a DAO that essentially manages the conference, and they brought it to Detroit this year. That was a really great group of people to meet and learn a lot from them as well too.
What is it now?
It's a decentralized autonomous organization. Sometimes you hear, previously you might have heard DAX too, which would be the same thing. Those are communities, but at the end of the day, it's kind of think about it as a co-op that's digitally enforced in a way, or if it's designed well, it should be. Some of them aren't, but.
I want to just bring us back real quick, a little gravitational pull. So if I want to get layman's or laywoman's education to cryptocurrency, I need to go to either Naki or the other gentleman's meetup, and that would be the most appropriate way to get an introduction, other than doing research for myself. There's no hub online, there's no credible publication where you can say, hey, this is somewhere where you can start getting hip to the information that is available.
So I would say a lot of the U.S. exchanges have pretty good learn to earn programs. That's a really easy way to start, where it'll basically just walk you through lessons, and when you complete the little lessons, they'll give you some very small minor amount of cryptocurrency. So it's another way to get in the game and learn without actually having to spend any of your own money other than your time, right? So I know those programs are usually pretty successful. Coinbase has one, Kraken has one, I think. So you can learn about all different things. So they'll have a Bitcoin module. They'll have, I know at one point there was an EOS, or now called Volta module, which is what we run, right? So they really give you a full breadth of things. There are some good publications. I know the Bitcoin magazine is pretty trustworthy. I don't know how much educational content that they have. I would say most of your crypto media honestly is not very good, because if you think about it, right, it's institutions or financial media institutions at the end of the day have reporters who all have pulled certain cryptocurrencies, and they're not really being unbiased about the way that they report things, right? So, it's kind of tough for me to answer that in a way, because it's I don't really have a lot that I really go to trust.
And our times go to Twitter, and we're well, it's the Wild West, right?
Yeah, it is the Wild West. Most people have some common sense until they can find their way. But I also wanted to say is podcasts, where for me, coming online, or on chain, learning about everything, I found podcasts extremely helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll second that one.
Yeah.
So I'll throw the hat in the ring for Bankless. That's been a really informative podcast for me.
Yeah.
Sure, they lean towards Ethereum, but I feel like they give a pretty fair shake to cryptocurrency all up. And it's a fundamentals-driven approach, at least in my opinion. So, yeah.
I love the podcast. That's a great one.
You're going to say something, Elizabeth, other than that? Okay. Well, Ben, I think it's appropriate for us to open this up to the community that are participating in the conversation, and we want any comments and questions, and Ben, I don't know if you want to keep that off.
Absolutely. I will just say one thing before we get into it. The link tree, the QR code, will get you connected to some legitimate sources or links. Many of the organizations here represent, including DAR's come up with it. Well, take DAR's class if you want to source of information. Remember this here, right? But also, there's a Twitter list that he's crafted and he shared with his students who was also graceful to share. That way you can follow accounts that maybe have at least a professor's vetting, somewhat. So, with that said, who's got questions? All right, let's go over here.
First, thank you all for participating in this panel. Very ignorant yet, please bear with me, I'm a beginner at all of this, so I have really understood all you all said. House, marriage, baby, marriage, house, whatever way it's supposed to be done, people will have their own ways of doing something, right? If one is entering this world, because it's still very new to a lot of people, what would your advice be? And it could be very different for all three. So I would love to hear, or maybe one of you say the sequence of how you're supposed to enter and become a part of this, or maybe it's different. So please, by all means, if it's different from the other individual, I would love to still hear it.
I'll just dive in first because I'm holding the mic. But yeah, come to the meetup. Come to the Grand Rapids Blockchain meetup, and we can have personal conversations and we can talk about it. We're also planning on having like a blockchain 101 talk where I can like walk through some slides and give some basics on how blockchains work and what can be built on them and how they what they can be used for. And then social media is helpful, but as long as you're not because there's lots of scams out there and stuff. And then like I mentioned as well, podcasts.
Yeah, as far as social media, I feel like LinkedIn, we see more crypto activity on LinkedIn now that there's more institutional adoption. I would say LinkedIn is a good place to be for crypto to learn more. Just follow some good people. Like I post a lot of stuff about crypto on LinkedIn. Actually, you can find each one of us on that QR code that's posted. I'm also going to post my link to my community Discord for the Trade Blockchain Collective. But that actually has basically a lot of people from Detroit and blockchain on that, as well as from Grand Rapids. And it's a good place just to have online discussion in real life with real people who are local. Podcasts, community groups. If you're outside of Grand Rapids, like I said, let me know. I can help you start your own community. Adam, do you have thoughts on this?
I don't really have anything to add other than that. I think you guys covered it. It's really just you just got to show up, and that sounds like so, what do you want to call it, cliche. But most people in the space are actually really nice, and they're willing to help people learn and sit down with you. I mean, we have another meetup group in Detroit that's been going on for a while. The one that I mentioned that I took over, but really the guy who's most active in there is my partner, and he just sits at a bar basically and teaches people, and they show up when they want to learn, right? So there's lots of those people in this industry.
Can I reiterate a little bit more?
Sure.
A little bit more in depth. So I meant it more as in get the crypto first, then you get an account for what are the steps of actually I'm ready to invest into this box. Yeah, setting up a wallet.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
That's why I have my apologies if I wasn't clear.
Yeah, so I mean, you can do it a number of different ways. It really just depends on your risk tolerance, right? And that's pretty much it at the end of the day, because you can sign up for an exchange, right? Kraken or whatever, Coinbase. You'll be able to easily get crypto there, but that's not holding your own crypto, right? And generally, the whole saying is not your keys, not your crypto. Just like a Fidelity account, if they don't like something that you're doing, they can just, say, hey, your account's shut down until you do whatever we say you have to do, right? Outside of that, getting a wallet, right? MetaMask, you can literally go download an extension, a browser extension, and generate an ETH address in under 5 minutes, right? And that ETH address can be used for all the different layer 2s that are on Ethereum as well, right? So, that's the easiest way to get into the space. Things like Wax, right? This is getting, I'll cut it off here, but there are chains that also have like custodial wallets too, so they'll give you a similar experience to using your Gmail account to create a blockchain account that's managed by the actual blockchain network, and then you can go in and say, hey, I actually want to self-manage this, give me the private keys, and destroy my custodial wallet, basically, or get rid of that like private information they store on it, right? Not destroy it, but. So there's tons of different schemes that people have tried to do over the years to make this easier, and I gave you like 3 of them basically, but I would say the most common is definitely if you're going the crypto native route to just download MetaMask and generate an ETH address.
I would say if all that was gibberish to you, go to a meetup and then ask people.
An ETH address is your blockchain address basically, right? It can look different ways on different chains, but that's really all you're doing when you do that.
I'll just to add a little bit to that. Is this on? Can you hear me? Yeah.
Press the button.
Hello. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. So I just did this with like a whole class of students, and the process that I chose to do with them was just create an exchange, a centralized exchange account. The same way if you were going to buy stock, you would create an account at like Charles Schwab or one of the other stock exchange companies or a stock broker companies. So you get one that's a crypto exchange, and like Adam just mentioned Kraken or Coinbase, and then you connect your bank account to that, and then you send some money over, and then when you're there, then you can buy some crypto with that. But then, as he just said, not your keys, not your crypto. Just because it's on the exchange doesn't mean you're in control of it yet. Then you need to get a wallet, which is a browser extension or an app on your phone. And then when you do that, when you create one of those things, you'll have an address. And that's like your email address, but it's like a long series of numbers and digits. And then you take that and you have to put that into your account. Like you're going to send it to yourself from the exchange that you bought the crypto on. And at that point, then you truly own the crypto and have that. So it's like this multi-stage process. Like Ben said, come to the meetup and we will take you through.
It's definitely easier to walk through with somebody
And
the
want to
first
take us
time.
next question?
Yeah.
Yes, I wanted to ask about inequality in this. You mentioned inequality, and I'm an academic also, and I'm on the negative side of academics. I'm a historian, and I study what people do with power, right? I mean, that's what history is about. And as I recollect, much of the conversation about crypto started internationally because large powers in the United States, the European allies, had control over much of the economy, and having traveled in various regions of the world, that created inequality. So that also created the same kinds of inequality indirectly in the United States, from redlining to other kinds of things. You all seem very, very sanguine about the possibility of blockchain, and without people claiming power over it to control it. And I wanted to know why you're so sanguine.
What was the last sentence?
Why are you so sanguine about power and control over this? Because the history of capitalism is centralization.
Sure. Yeah, happy to answer that. So the way the blockchain is organized, it's you can think of it as a public good, a decentralized public good. So there are people all over the world who are helping create this blockchain. So someone in Russia, someone in Malaysia, someone in Paris, someone in New York, they're all running these nodes in this network. Because there are these nodes in this network all over the world, everyone's participating, and even companies and governments can run nodes, but no one can control because there's no central control over the blockchain. So that provides this public good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, but they're quite resilient, quite secure, and I would say, and I think the reason a lot of us are talking about equity is because what happens is, it doesn't matter, you could be very wealthy or you could be quite poor, but to make a transaction on the blockchain, it's equal for everyone. And right now, currently, if I want to send money across a border, I can use my bank. My bank takes a large percentage of that. The blockchain can do it cheaper. Typical blockchain can do it cheaper. And then on top of that, there's the system of for example, this is an example that I was using, like remittance payments. Like Western Union, for example, their take rate is massive. And who uses Western Union? The marginalized, individuals who don't have enough money to have a bank account that they can send international transfers, right? And so the way that the system is built, that if someone that doesn't have that equity in the traditional finance world, they can then get on the blockchain and get that equity through the blockchain.
Excellent.
Jack, did you say you wanted?
Excellent answer, though, Doc. Way to tackle that. That's good stuff.
Yeah, I'd like to add, you're a historian, sir, correct?
Yeah.
You mentioned?
He's talking.
Oh, you're a historian, you mentioned, right?
Yes.
I look at this revolution similar to the gunpowder revolution, right? Back in the day, there were a lot of noblemen, the rich could afford armies, horses, swords, all of that type of thing, and then gunpowder came around and it was the great equalizer. The same thing has captured
It
with.
depended if you could get gunpowder, right?
Well, sure thing, but it definitely helped the average person.
So, I mean, what I'm saying is, people attracted to technology, right? Whatever the technology, gunpowder. Albert Nobel, who started the Nobel Prize, how did he make his money? He made his money off of gunpowder and consolidating gunpowder. I always.
No, that's fair. However, the barrier to entry to getting into Bitcoin is zero. Anyone can buy the smallest amount. Now, that doesn't solve the inequality that exists in all forms, the 80-20 principle. 80% of the 20% of people own 80% of the wealth, 20% of the matter exists in 80% of the universe. That will not be solved by this. However, the barrier to entry is zero. You can get started, and the earlier you do, I think it will advantage you, at least in that education.
Appreciate the comment. Next question. Let's see some other. That's all your questions.
I'd like to add on to that if I
No, please, go ahead.
So the decentralization, I think, is also an issue that's dear to me. So with crypto, that represents many networks. But the blockchain, in my opinion, and I think others, is the most decentralized. And I don't know if you have knowledge of that or if you would agree or disagree with that. But I think that is one thing that brings great equality to people is the decentralization of the blockchain because I don't think they can make an argument that is completely decentralized. I mean, there are no red blocks to anyone for that.
Excellent.
All right, everybody have a question for the panel?
Some women in here, please. The young woman with the sunglasses, so we can get her right. Raise your hand.
Yeah, thank you so much for all the information tonight. It was really, really interesting. So I have a background in psychology, so I'm a psychologist from Europe, and I am giving lectures in Michigan on the topic Bitcoin psychology. And so I understand Bitcoin on a very, very deep level. I think it's a really, really helpful tool. I love the blockchain technology. I love that it cannot be censored because when we were in Europe, the war started in Ukraine and we had all of a sudden from one day to the other 6 refugees from Ukraine sitting in our house and they didn't really know how to get their money. And so, of course, Bitcoin could be a solution there. Bitcoin is also not in any way impacted by inflation, so it can be really helpful on the long run. But I have studied the human mind, and I also have studied a lot what behavioral economists said, and they say that we are all the time kind of impacted by cognitive biases. There could be group thinking, there could be the confirmation bias, and we do that all the time. So when Europe got into the tricky situation that there was a war in Ukraine, Germany was completely in a tricky situation situation because we didn't know how to get our fuel. Because we were dependent on like the big enemy Russia. And we were all the time for years in that really nice mindset that nothing will happen and we completely depend on Russia. And every time, even when Russia took over the Crimea, the whole country said, oh, we're fine, nothing is going to happen, we just took over the Crimea, we can depend on that. That was clearly a confirmation bias. We interpreted all the information that we got based on our like last or past history with Russia. Until then, it was fine, you know? And the same is going to happen in the crypto world, that those biases can kick in. We saw it, for example, with Richard Hart. Richard Hart started the cryptocurrency called Hex, and he was similar to Hitler really, really well when he communicated things. He was a good speaker, so was Hitler. That's why he was able to convince so many people. This thing would have never happened in Germany, and it would also have never happened with Hex if group thinking would be a thing. And then we talked tonight a lot about like into which cryptocurrencies can we trust, into which can we not trust. And I've heard a couple of times the term common sense, and that is, from my point of view, very dangerous. So I'm Bitcoin maxi. I think Bitcoin is amazing because no one owns Bitcoin. Ethereum is being owned by someone, so is Hex, and a lot of other cryptocurrency. And I'm really happy to hear your opinion on that because I think I do not trust in Bitcoin because of others. It was a hard time for him to convince me, trust me. So this is my husband, so it was hard for him at the beginning to convince me because of course it's a couple years we decide to really want to invest in Bitcoin or not. And I was like very skittish at the beginning. I was like, I don't really want to get into this. But then I studied that was behavioral economics actually, and it was always like, the topic was always like, if you want to prevent something horrible from happening, decentralize processes.
So what is your question?
So it's just like, how do all the other cryptocurrencies do that? I just see Bitcoin do that it's like, the whole features of the monetary system are so good when it comes to Bitcoin, and I do not see that in all the other cryptocurrencies, and that's why I'm not trusting it. I don't trust it, not just because like other people like believe in it, or not believe in it. I don't trust it because of its features. And
I think you bring up a really good point, and I'm so glad that you're asking these questions, and you have a really good perspective, especially with related history. So what specifically was the question?
No, it's just like Bitcoin has all the good features, so I don't need someone to convince me, and like I don't need the group thinking process. You don't need necessarily like the network effect.
I was just trying to understand what the question was so that we could try to address it for the audience.
Yeah, so but like with the other cryptocurrencies, I do not see those good features I see in Bitcoin.
Okay.
So
And
that's
do you
what
want to
I'm
address
trying
that when I try to address your concerns? I think this is a great question. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, so this is, I'm going to try to do this as best as possible because I operate in these other networks that are kind of more what you're talking about, right? And the way that we tried to handle these things early on was by writing governance similar to how you would, like, let's say, a nonprofit. Well, it doesn't really matter when somebody just opens up the foundation entity in the Cayman Islands, right? Like, okay, it's great that it's all written down somewhere, but they can, at the end of the day, almost do what they want. Also, things like looking at, how was this actually even created? Was there a mining or a pre-mining phase, or is there like an allocation to the insider team basically, or was there not one, right? So that's what I look at when I look at those things, right? When I first started, I got involved in EOS, and the Bitcoin people will probably be like, oh, we've heard about this story, right? We were just a validator, and the company who created the code for EOS actually did the largest ICO ever in the history of like crypto, basically, unless it's changed, but they did a 4 billion ICO basically. Then probably about a year and a half, 2 years after that, the company kind of just like stopped doing the core development, and they worked on their own like exchange product that they launched out of like Hong Kong or something like that, right? So like those things definitely happen, and like that's kind of why I'm saying like the exchanges earlier, people need to the exchanges need to separate things out that are like actually investments from things that are like decentralized projects like Bitcoin or they're like airdrop projects or something like that. I don't have a problem specifically with networks where they were created solely based on airdropping to another network or something. As long as the distribution's fair, it's not just replicating everything. But those are the things that I look at. I think your point's really valid, but the other networks really at the end of the day, they're not trying to solve the same function as Bitcoin. And so you have to look at them completely different. Is kind of where I was going at.
I think it's a great point, Adam. Yeah, they serve different purposes. Ben, I know you had some other people who had some questions that have been waiting so patiently.
How you doing? My name is Steve Jones. I'm an esports and gaming pioneer and also a crypto pioneer. We have a token. I haven't heard anybody else speak about crypto, so we have a cryptocurrency we developed. It's actually based in Detroit, but obviously people can go get it on the Ethereum and Solana blockchain and different blockchains. So how can we actually push the cryptos that people develop around our community to actually build digital equity for everybody? We keep talking about Bitcoin, but it's only 21 million Bitcoin. There are other coins, and we partner with educational institutions like he's a professor at Michigan State University. I'm actually partner with Michigan State University to help them with a streaming platform with a COO that oversees a $1 trillion investment portfolio with an organization called Party. So as I'm building these institutional partnerships, how can we push the coin that we develop so everybody else can get a piece of that equity before there's too many Bitcoin and then people get fractions of a Bitcoin and then they're going to have that same value? Good question.
Yeah, I mean, I think a good way to be able to get feedback on what you've built is to talk to other community members and get feedback on utility and see if there's a demand for what you're building. But Betty, you had somebody else who's asking a question?
Okay. I guess I'm not. I've been over large pension plans, retirement plans, and I will get to the question real quick, but I just want to say this. I've seen this whole cryptocurrency go from totally skeptical on the stock market exchange, where they wanted nothing to do with it. The SEC, nobody wanted to regulate it because it was so speculative, and they just told everybody to stay away from it. So the advisors to the retirement plans told everybody, stay away from it. But the more we hire young people who actually, I'm a baby boomer, so, it's the baby boomers are controlling the stock exchange. Nobody's understanding all this going on. And so much pressure was being put through the retirement plans with young employees saying, well, are these all the allocations and categories of investments we can do? Where's cryptocurrency, and that put pressure on the employers like us, large retirement plans, to reconcile with forcing our financial advisors to our plans to come back and give us something to be able to respond and first help us to understand what was cryptocurrency? What is this all about? Because it was treated as, the plague 10 years ago. Now, obviously the SEC needed to regulate it because billions of dollars outside the stock market was being made through something they weren't even classifying as a stock, right? So I'll just get to, I got a lot more, but I'm just going to get to the questions. I think, Elizabeth, have you considered creating a presentation for employers with retirement plans to do a presentation? Because even now, just hearing you guys tonight, I can tell you, now we all, I think they've come up with some ETFs and stuff for cryptocurrency because they had to, right? Because we're all demanding, we got to show these young employees, we got something with cryptocurrency. But I don't think we really fully understand it. So I think the question for you is, given your role, is I think it would be really good if you could figure out how to create a packet for presentations to retirement plans that people like myself have been over large retirement plans. Because I think that this is a part of the future. And I love that you're doing a class in it. So the question is, have you thought about really targeting, because retirement investment, you guys count for like 40% of the stock market in this country. So it's really important to have a targeted like it. So I leave that with you. You don't have to answer, but I would encourage you to do that.
Thank you for that feedback. It's good to know that there's a demand. And I have seen proposals for that implemented in other states to allow companies to integrate that into their retirement package and for employees to voluntarily designate, say, 10% of their 401k, for instance, value to cryptocurrency. So this is in the works. I would say that trade councils represent blockchain companies in different states, and they're a really good resource to go to as well for companies who want to be able to be in compliance. But thank you for that.
Yeah, I just want to add to actually on the QR code, if you scan it, one of the sponsors, the Global Blockchain Business Council, to Elizabeth's point, I'll check, they may have one specifically for that, but the one use cases I know has some of those use cases in there, like actual examples. So I'll make sure, let's catch up after this and I'll make sure you get that report at least.
Three more?
Three more questions. I do want to just say something about that. For people that are in the space and paying attention, the impression right now, I would say, I just jotted down some things that are happening, okay? There was the most successful launch of an ETF in history, which was a Bitcoin ETF and an Ethereum ETF, all right? We have agencies discussing collateral for mortgages using cryptocurrency. You have large corporations like Amazon, Walmart, JP Morgan discussing issuing stable coins. You have, the list goes on. What I mean is I think Wall Street is here. DC is also here. The reason why moments like this matter is because, you and I need to be here. And so I think I've spoken to financial advisors that are already actively, telling the wealth managers that are holding wealthy people's money, they are starting to find allocations in their retirements and their assets. So it's important. You're doing the good work of being here today to find out more. I think that's empowering.
Hey, real quick, Elizabeth, are you allowed to contribute to political campaigns with your crypto?
I'm going to be accurate. I do not believe that Stand with Crypto directly contributes or indirectly to political campaigns.
No, not you guys. I mean me as an individual.
Oh, do I contribute?
Me, Jonathan, not you. That candidate as an individual can contribute to a campaign.
You're asking me if you can contribute to a campaign?
He wants to get involved.
Oh, you're asking which campaign to get involved in. Is that what you're asking me? What is your question?
Political campaigns actually just accept crypto as a donation to the campaign.
Oh.
That's exactly.
I just needed a translator.
The most inarticulate question I asked.
This is a great question. I'm not aware of which campaigns allow that, but my goodness, some run on that campaign and they certainly should.
Yeah, like legally they can accept crypto and there's that.
Legally. Okay.
Yeah, and there's that's what I thought you meant.
That's what I meant.
But yeah, they can legally accept it. I think there's a number of different organizations now too that are making it easy for campaigns and nonprofits to also accept crypto. It's very similar to what you'd be familiar with, basically just donating to a campaign, but they've kind of done all the work for you.
Then, sorry,
No, I would like to say, related to that, the city of Detroit, as of sometime in 2025, will be accepting cryptocurrency for their municipal fees and their taxes. So it's not directly answering your question, but it's related. So we're moving in that direction.
Thank you. All right, last few questions. Anybody who hasn't asked a question yet? Let's get this gentleman here first.
So it seems that every blockchain has its own native cryptocurrency that's backing it. And that is how they pay for the fees to record information on the blockchain. Do you see that it is inevitable or a requirement that every blockchain has its own native cryptocurrency that's backing it? And if not, how would they get paid to record such information on the blockchain?
I'll give it a try. One of the cool use cases of crypto is that you can organize. It's a great way to organize people. If you think about like what I was talking about, all these people around the world are collaborating and running these computers to lay down to act as validators of these transactions and lay down these transactions into this ledger. So if you get people to participate without getting paid, that would be amazing. But most people want to get some type of compensation for the time. Many times, if you need that infrastructure, you have to also pay for that, so they want to get paid for it. I guess I don't know of any situation where the blockchain was able to be organized without the people getting paid. To specifically answer your question about if it needs to be in a native currency, I do know that many, not many, but several blockchains sometimes they adopt other blockchains' currencies in order to be used as gas for the transactions. So those payments you are able to program it so the blockchain can accept different types of crypto assets for those transactions.
Excellent.
All right. Before I circle back to my Maximiliano here, any other questions? No? Hey, that's good. You got a lot of questions.
I do. I want to learn more about blockchain, actually. What is blockchain exactly? What does it do? Yeah.
Sorry.
Should have been the first question, right?
Have you ever used an Excel file before? Like on Excel? That's literally all it is. You can just imagine like in an Excel file, a list of addresses, the same way like a list of email addresses. And each one basically has like an amount of, let's say just like one, let's say it's Bitcoin, it's just how much Bitcoin does that address own. And if I'm in control of an address with my wallet, I send out a transaction and I say, I want to transfer 1 Bitcoin from my wallet to this other person's wallet, and there are these computers all around the world that are recording that, and they're laying it down. Sorry? No. They're validating these transactions just the same way that a bank would validate a check. So they're checking to see if the signature on the check is correct, and if the person that is sending the check has the correct amount in their account. If that happens, the transaction is validated, and they lay down that transaction into the Excel file. And that's literally all that's all it is. But because it's this decentralized Excel file that basically everyone around the world can access permissionlessly in a decentralized manner, it allows for, in the case of like Bitcoin, for example, it allows us for transfer of Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin has value, then you can transfer value in a peer-to-peer way digitally. But in the case of something with like Ethereum or Solana that has what are called smart contracts, now you can build, like I was talking about before, you can actually build social media, you can build an Uber, you can build a Spotify on top of the blockchain, and it opens up an incredible new use case. And these companies that are building these products can then undercut like you can build a Spotify on the blockchain and then undercut the Spotify that currently exists because you don't have so many expenses. The famous saying by Jeff Bezos is your margin is my opportunities. So that's what all these Web3 companies are trying to do, is take advantage of the blockchain and undercut the traditional Web2.
There we go. Well, we want to thank our panelists. First of all, give them a round of applause. We want to thank the Detroit Blockchain Collective, Stanford Crypto, Michigan State, Did I get that correct? Okay. The Detroit Ledger Technologies, Michigan Blockchain Council, the Midwest Tech Project, and Grand Rapids Blockchain. I tricked you. Thank you. You did it. Thank you so much. Thanks for being out. We want to thank Jonathan for being the moderator, Midwest Tech for hosting this event. And we shall see you at the next iteration of this. So this is just the first, and this is the inaugural, this is the genesis, but we look forward to convening this group, different groups, specified groups to talk about the various areas that pique your interest here in the very near future. So thank you for coming out. Really appreciate you guys.
Please continue to support these guys. I just tell them that this is like, one of the best for new meetup organizers. started out, one of the best events that I've seen, just from a professionalism standpoint, all that sorely needed in this industry. So thank you again, Maggie, Ben, Dar.